Hi, my name is Franke Cena, and I am the coach of WSDC Denmark, as well as the owner of Fostering Debate Talent Academy in Vancouver, which is a public speaking and debating academy. I'm going to now be answering some questions about the lead up to WSDC. How do you prepare for prepared debates at WSDC? Well, there's a lot of research involved. We have our students examine the topic and create outlines of research about the topic, as well as outlines of potential models and potential cases and arguments for the topic. Once they've done all that research, we come together and we sort of piece it together to make the most compelling prepared case. How do you dedicate time between the prepared you know sides for and those you do not? I would say for the prepared topics that we know our side for, we prepare a little bit more and a little bit more intensely because we know exactly what we're getting into. For the other ones, we still prepare a great deal, but we kind of wait until the moment that we know our sides for those topics to kind of give it that last 10 to 20% of preparation, which typically takes place at WSDC. How do you set up team expectations for WSDC? I think this is going to be highly dependent on the types of students you have and your coaching style. Personally, I try to be as motivating as possible, and basically we prepare to win and we prepare to lose. Notifying your students that anything can happen. They might end the tournament with 0 wins, they might end it with 8 wins, and leaving it open to the possibilities. For new nations, I would say definitely you want to pad the expectations a little bit. WSDC is very competitive, and like any sport, the more times you've been, the higher your chances of success. So I'm all about motivation and optimism, but for new nations, maybe going in with realistic expectations would probably be a good idea. How do you plan and seek out spars from other nations? In my first year at WSDC, this was pretty difficult. I just tried to basically look for a list of coaches and just frantically contact them on Facebook. But as you go to more worlds, you're going to find you know people, you make connections, you know other coaches. I still use Facebook as the method. I see what side my team is on for the round and what countries are on the other side. And then I basically message the ones that I know on Facebook or email, and I say, do you want to spar? I have a practice schedule, and we just kind of fill that out for the tournament. How do you select a team manager and coordinate with them? In Denmark, our team manager has been the same from the beginning, and she is sort of the head of the delegation, and she kind of coordinates the kids, the coach, the judges, and things like that. So I'm not sure I can give too much more detail on this one, other than it's important that everyone's communicating together. Have a Google Drive, have an email thread, have a Facebook thread, so you're all constantly in touch about everything for WSDC. How do you prepare students for cultural differences at WSDC? I wouldn't say that we prepare students for this. I would just say that remind your students to be respectful, to be kind, and to be accepting of all cultures and religions and ethnicities and diversities and everything, because the whole world is coming together at once, and that's a very unique experience that most people cannot say that they had the pleasure of experiencing. Okay, now you're at WSDC. How do you rotate students under a power paired system? This is a great question. In the old system, teams were divided by level, so you basically would hit a team of the 8 different levels. This allowed perhaps some of the more beginner students of the team to go against more beginner teams, leaving more advanced debaters to go against more advanced teams. I put all of this in quotation marks because I believe that at Worlds, every team is a threat, a team that can win, a team that could win all 8 rounds or 0 rounds. So you don't want to assume too much. And similarly with my students, I don't want to assume that one is the best and one is the weakest. I want to be open to what's going to happen leading up to Worlds and even at Worlds based on their performance. With that said, I understand the question. How do you know when to put in students in a power paired system? I think prepared debates is a great chance to try to get your more beginner students debating if that's important to you. For Team Denmark, we want everyone to debate 4 rounds as much as possible, but some years we do have weaker students and we tell them you're going to be a non-speaking member or you're going to debate in 1 round. In those situations, I would likely have them do a prepared debate, but other than that, I would say you could base it on the motion. Tell the students, look, there's 4 impromptu rounds, you're going to do 2 and you're going to do 2. Base it on the topics that you feel that you're more comfortable with? So long story short, there's a lot of answers to this question, but I hope I've given some ideas for that. How do you deal with students after a difficult loss? Let them cry if they want to cry, let them be upset, but ultimately tell them that everything is okay. And at Worlds, you know, you're not eliminated until you've lost 4 rounds. If it was the 4th loss, and that's why it's especially difficult, all you can do is say, you know, you tried your best, and that's life. You know, in life people lose, and it's hard, but I think that Worlds is a great way to learn that lesson. How do you deal with disagreeing with the judge's decision? Look, the judge is always right, even when they're wrong. That's the rules of our sport that we have agreed to. So I would say that in about 1% of cases, or 5%, like 1 to 5% of cases, I have made a complaint with a decision that I disagree with. Depending on who you disagree with and the comfort level, you could bring it to the chair judge directly, or you could bring it to the cap directly. But you should act swiftly and you should act respectfully. Even if the decision is erroneous, either based on personal opinion or objective fact, you still have to be respectful. I think that coaches or students who yell or scream or get emotional with judges, it's just not productive, and it's not safe, and it's not creating the community that we want to create. So speak respectfully or go to the cap, and remember, this should only be done in extreme circumstances because the judges are the ones who make the decisions at Worlds. What can you do during debates to ensure you're giving students the best feedback and helping them improve over the tournament? Definitely you should have one person devoted, if you have the funds, to watching the students in all 8 rounds. Try not to switch who's doing this because they should have one constant voice. You should be taking notes as you would in any of your practice sessions, and after the rounds, after they get judges' feedback, just really highlight the biggest things that they need to work on, and every night have a meeting and talk about that feedback and just keep that feedback loop constant. How do you ensure students are eating and staying healthy during WSDC? WSDC, there's not going to be a lot of sleep. There's not going to be perfect diet occurring. That's the nature of the sport. Maybe carry snack packs, bring protein bars, buy snacks and water and sugar. I try to create care packs for my students, but just understand that, you know, they are young adults, and if they're mature enough to speak on global issues, they should be mature enough to feed themselves accordingly. But yeah, care packs. How do you set out rules for students' discipline and ensure they are following them? I'm very privileged to work with very mature students, and for the past 6 Worlds that I've attended. If maybe your students aren't mature, or you don't trust them, or you're just wanting to be extra cautious, I would say just, you know, be upfront. Maybe say, look, these are the rules. If you don't follow them, you won't be debating at the tournament, or if you don't follow them, we'll send you home, or we'll contact your parents or your school. I guess having a stake or a light threat might be the most effective way. Other than that, just making sure that you're selecting students who you know are going to abide by the rules and follow what you're saying. How to deal with stressed or anxious students throughout the training process. Team Denmark has definitely had some students quit the process. I know other teams have experienced similar situations because it is stressful. I think it is knowing the point where a person cannot handle WSDC and knowing the point where it's okay to push them. This takes trial and error, but WSDC is very stressful, and it's a world championship. I'm sure that people are stressed at the Olympics as well. So it's not to say that there will be no stress, but rather to prepare them for it, talk about it, and explain coping mechanisms for dealing with that stress. How do you deal with disputes among students? Again, in the training process, just create an environment for no disputes being allowed. Create a safe environment. Make sure your team is friends with each other. In the case that they aren't, have someone in the prep room who can be your eyes and ears as a coach or manager to sort of tell you what's happening. And in the worst case scenario, it would be removing someone from the prep room because the students cannot solve the problem. But I've never had it come to that personally. How do you balance competitive considerations with well-being and cultural experience? Again, this will depend on you as the coach. I know that for me as a coach, Worlds is the ultimate competition, and I'm there to prepare my students to do the best that they can. And that does mean, you know, missing the tour a day, or, you know, maybe not going sightseeing on the break day. But that's a personal choice, and you should make that choice yourself as the coach or team manager. And of course, I don't think anyone should be competitive at all costs, but it's really up to you. Do the kids want to go on the culture day, or do they want to prep? Just again, that constant communication and feedback loop to determine what's best for the team. Whoa, that was a lot of talking all at once. I hope that was helpful. If you have any questions for me, I'm Franke, coach of Team Denmark, owner of Fostering Debate Talent Academy, and I really, really hope that these videos have been helpful for all new nations and anyone looking for coaching advice. Thanks a lot.